My name's Guy Kestevan. I've been a professional bike and kit tester for over 25 years. And this is a quick tech talk around on the up-close details of Santa Cruz's latest Tallboy. Short travel, downhillers, cross-country bike as they style it. And the most obvious difference over the previous Tallboy is you've got this glove box here on the down tube, which you get a couple of internal storage wallets for your tools and your spares, and you can fit snacks in there, maybe a lightweight jacket. So really useful practical addition. And also inside there you can see the trunking for the internal cable routing as well. And the actual hatch mechanism is really solid. It actually adds a fair amount of weight to the frame. The frame now is over 3 kilos, but really satisfying clunk together. Although this one does lift slightly on the front gusset if you're pulling the bottle out on and off. So you know, a little bit of squeezing in sits it well. And you can always, I know other people who've put like a little sort of silicone gut around it as well, just to seal it that bit better. But also that gives it this massive down tube now. So really, really big, burly bottom end of the bike. Although the actual layout hasn't changed much, it's a much stiffer, much more aggressive feel. And that's backed up by new, stiffer Santa Cruz bars, Bergtech stem, and the much tighter, stiffer feel from this pike front fork. It's 130mm travel on the back and theoretically 120mm on the rear, although if you measure it vertically, it's actually just under 110mm according to the MBR method. I've already written this bike up for an MBR test, so this video is just for my channel. But so yeah, the whole front end of this bike is properly hench. Even down to the fact they've put torque caps on the end of these Industry 9 hubs, so there's a maximum connection and overlap with the bottom of those forks. So the whole thing really, really stiff and grounded at the front end. And although I'm kind of jumping ahead on the spec here, but obviously another big Santa Cruz bonus is you've got these carbon fibre Reserve 30 SL wheels, so reasonably light, but still super tough with that Reserve lifetime warranty. And the frame gets a lifetime warranty, and the bearings, and they're quite hard to see from this side, get a lifetime warranty as well. And the other difference for this year is they've actually changed the pivot position slightly. So they've used a smaller axles in the pivots, which means they can get the linkages tighter in towards the bottom bracket. So it's a slightly more supple, more neutral feel in the suspension, which I've done a separate live ride review of this bike. So you want to jump on there to see how that affects the pedaling and the overall performance of the bike. And then right down the bottom, you've got what looks tiny compared to the rest of the frame, but you've got this Fox factory float DPS Evol shock there, and it's a full factory Kashima version with that, as you can tell from that gold colorways. And you've got 3 positions in terms of low speed compression, rebound adjust, and then you got 3 positions in terms of sort of pedal, firm, and fully open for riding as well. And then the suspension layout, apart from that, those pivot changes, otherwise unchanged. It's the same across all Santa Cruz's trail and sort of park and downhill bikes now. You've got a very short rocker linkage at the bottom. You can see the back of it in there, and that drives the shock. So you've got a shorter linkage in the bottom. You can see it in there. That drives the shock. And you've got a big bearing section on the back end there. And if you look carefully, you can see there's actually a tiny geometry adjust chip on the back of it. I'll actually flip it around in a second so you can see it from the other side, but to be honest, I wouldn't go anywhere near that. It's an absolute nightmare adjusting that. And then you've got this longer hanging CNC linkage under this super sloped top tube here, and then you've got a fair old extension on the seat tube. And as you can see, the actual seat angle looks pretty relaxed, but the effective seat angle on this bike is between 76.5 and 76.3, depending on where you have that flip chip. And going up to the front, head tube angle 65.5 or 65.2, so pretty slack for a 120mm travel bike. Reach on this large is relatively reasonable, 475mm. That's kind of mid-pack. It's not excessively long, but it's certainly not short. And then the back end on this large is 442mm. But the way that Santa Cruz configure their bikes, the back ends are, well, the effective chainstay length is proportionate to the rest of the geometry, and all the angles and in fact all the dimensions change slightly from size to size to size. And not only that, but they also change the composite layup, so the actual physical feel of the bike is different between the extra small and the XXL, because again, full huge size range of these bikes, and together with a lifetime warranty and the fact they're coming from really good dealers. All the Santa Cruz dealers in the UK I know are absolutely top notch, run by riders, great support, and Santa Cruz always do their best to stand by their customers as well. Plus you get all the bonuses of the pay dirt, support of rider programs, the fact that Santa Cruz put all their bikes together in California. The frames are Far Eastern, but the bikes are actually built in Santa Cruz, so the QC is absolutely impeccable, and it's put together in a factory that's powered by solar power in in a nice place to live and ride, rather than perhaps funding something with slightly less lugubrious working conditions over in the Far East. In terms of spec, this is the X01 version, so you've got X01 carbon crank, you've got an X01 rear mech, but the cassette is actually a GX, and so are the axis shifters. And then completing the SRAM setup, you've got G2 RSC brakes with a 180 rotor front and rear, and you've got a one components dropper post, so plenty of room in that seat post to get a really long stroke dropper on there. Although, to be fair, this lever has stiffened up dramatically, and it isn't the comfiest of things in the first place. But in terms of the rest of the contact points, you've got WTB saddle, and then you've got Santa Cruz's own grips. I'm flipping it around to the far side. You can see you've got your high-low flip chip on the rear of the shock there, but like I say, the difference in geometry is actually pretty minimal, and it's really hard to make that switch without dropping all of the bits deep into this big hollowed out linkage there. But if you look right down inside, you can see there's a grease nipple there, which means you can actually inject fresh grease into the lower bearings to keep them smooth without doing a full strip down service on them. But you can do that pretty easily, and the whole bearing setup is lifetime warranted, just like the frame. And sorry, one last bit of spec, you've got Maxxis Recon, fast rolling lightweight tyre on the rear, and then a dissector on the front. So again, bit more chunky, but still one of the faster rolling tyres available from Maxxis. And to be fair, I think the tyre spec suits this bike really well. And what's interesting is that although Santa Cruz, this bike's just over £9,000, although I think they're on sale at the moment, they've got 20% off at the moment, but standard price is over £9,000. But actually, if you compare it to other bikes in the category, like Yeti, like Pivot, or even Specialized S-Works, this, or even Specialized S-Works or Trek, you're actually getting a really good package for the cash. With those reserve lifetime warranted wheels, top quality CC frame set. There is a C frame set as well, which is a little bit heavier, as stiff and with all the same features, just slightly heftier grade of carbon fibre, and top of the range pike fork and Kashima's shock. You're actually getting a really good package. And if you go for the full GX rather than this sort of semi X01 package, I'd argue that was even better value. And in this spec, it's 1304 kilos without pedals, which again, pretty reasonable weight for the category. But to be honest, there's nothing I've really told you here that you couldn't have learned from going on the Santa Cruz website and looking at some pictures. So what I would strongly urge you to do is go and check out my live ride video, where you'll see me riding this bike on the trails of Ilkley Moor and kind of talking about the experience I've had pushing it on various trails over the past few months, and just kind of hopefully bringing the bike alive on the trails as I'm riding it. So I'll stick a link to that at the end of this video. But massive thanks to Santa Cruz for letting me ride the bike for several months. Thanks to Zero Cycling UK, Petey's Products, Crud XL Fenders, Hebtro Co, and Talk Nutrition for sponsoring the channel. Thanks to my Patreon supporters for pledging on a monthly basis and their contributions make a massive difference to how much time I can spend talking to you on the GoPro about bikes. So if you like what I'm doing here, then please consider supporting me through the Patreon channel, and you'll get early, exclusive and behind the scenes edits as a thank you, and you'll get all the regular riding cuts ad free, and you'll get kind of a higher level of kind of personal shopper advice from me as well, based on my 25 years experience of riding bikes and testing a whole ton of kit. But if you can't afford Patreon, I totally understand, but make sure you subscribe, click for notifications and give us a thumbs up because that doesn't cost you anything, but it makes a real difference to how wide this channel is shared and how much it can grow. But for now, I've been Guy Kestevan on Guy Kes TV, doing a quick tech check walk around on the latest Santa Cruz Tallboy.